home. Yeah. I guess the only part is taking a long time getting dressed. Gotta get those.
World Baseball Classic.
Huh?
World Baseball Classic.
Yeah. You probably start watching the World Baseball.
He's watching that.
Oh, is there a game on?
Yeah, the World Baseball Classic right now.
The World Baseball what?
What World Baseball Classic?
He's always waiting from around the world, right?
It's all the players in World Baseball, yeah.
Yeah.
Go Team USA.
Is Keith online?
Not yet.
Not just Cubs, but also USA. What's the score? And St. Pat's it hasn't started.
Oh.
What's the score?
We gotta hurry up.
0-0.
We better hurry up in this meeting then.
Yeah, let's get it done. You're even trying
There's a lot of Cubs hat. Give you a Cubs hat. Angels and a Cubs hat over here.
to.
No, I can't do a Cubs.
And you can do an Angels, I got a personal player that played the Angels, so we can do that one. Paul and I take our baseball, Paul, Monica and I take our baseball very serious.
It's opening day and it's championship game. And Dodgers.
I'm not a hack person.
And I don't see any Seahawks.
Right, I just found out, I guess
Oh,
our
really?
family is, we are, I guess, Padres.
Oh,
It's the family, the family is the Padres because of, we get box tickets to the
Oh.
Padres, so that's why we're.
What's the national league here?
I have to,
Yeah,
I've got Phillies, because my cousin was a relief pitcher for the Phillies. This is his baseball coach.
Who's that?
Some cousin of hers.
Oh, you're not thinking, I was a Phillies fan. What's that?
Fred Wynn.
Oh, really? I think I had that card.
Well, apparently, the top, remember Chops, the
Yeah.
baseball? Well, apparently they used to pad the packages with his, so people were getting like 3 of him and 1 of somebody else. That's very nice. Isn't that funny?
I probably have a lot of his too.
Okay, now it's over.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order, even though, he's still not there. Right, okay, he's just gonna be online. Okay, is anybody else online yet?
I mean, we've got a bunch of other people, I don't know if, maybe message Mark.
Well, it's okay, Mark will get on when he gets on. I don't even text him. Just let him,
There's somebody on typo, but.
does it have a number?
No, it doesn't give.
Just says iPhone, okay. All right, so I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Virgin Town Council, Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. It is 6:03 p.m. You might text Keith though to remind them about that we're on. Okay, so I call it to order and we have the pledge of allegiance. Okay.
No.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What's this hat on the back of your jacket? Your shirt hat? Who is that? What's that?
That's a symbol for the World Baseball Classic.
So, but the name on the back of your shirt says.
Oh, hat.
Who's
Yeah.
that?
No, great, plays left field.
Oh.
Switch hitter from Pittsburgh originally.
Okay, so does anyone have any conflicts of interest with anything on the agenda? And I will start with April.
No.
Paul,
No.
Jean, no, Valerie, no, and Jim.
No.
Okay. Have any of you looked at the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I knew that.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh.
Mark is online and it.
Okay. I assume he's reviewed all these minutes and made his changes, and that's what you were referring to. right?
Yeah, Mark, I've reviewed the minutes.
Okay, all right, so consent agenda, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minutes February 11th, 2026, February 17th, 2026, and March 4th, 2026.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Okay. Darlene is not here today. She is sick and we have not received an email from her with her report. She told Mark that she would prepare a report that she sent us later.
Yeah, I was looking for that and I didn't see that.
Okay, so open forum. Anybody who has anything to say that is not on the agenda? And I'm going to assume that the answer is no, given who's in the audience, right?
Go USA.
Oh, sorry.
It's not on the agenda.
No, okay, that's your comment, thank you. Okay, council comments. Anyone have, April, anything you have to say?
So I just want to make everyone aware that their Rocky Mountain Power has an outage plan for next Tuesday, once again. They've had several outages planned and they've never followed through with it, so I'm assuming maybe this one's for real. Tuesday, the 11 PM to 5 AM, and they suggest that you unplug any electronics that are, you don't want to power them to.
The only one I got was an email from Rocky Mountain Power saying they were turning off the power in Laverne.
That's what I'm.
But it still was.
It covers us.
I wondered
I
about that.
have my address and then I think someone posted on the Virgin,
Family second year.
and they said that they had called and they said it was.
It did include Virgin, okay.
Yeah, the other thing I want to ask about is that awful looking monkey on the sand.
So, I believe that Ms. Shyla can answer that.
So yeah, I swung by today for just missionary work and asked them to take it down and then share with them from our signage ordinance, why it was not allowed. So they're taking it down, it'll be gone.
Yeah, it's pretty obnoxious looking, but I mean, some people might like it.
I can't imagine who. Other than
I'm sure Max phone has been ringing off the wall.
Thank you, Shyla.
Went up Saturday, I took it down Sunday and went back up Monday. And there we are.
Matt, thank you.
No problem.
Man, he's a bottling.
Okay. I really thought when I heard that there was this gorilla on top of the, gas station. I did. I thought, I wonder if this is a pushback to Valerie. And then I saw the gorilla and I'm like, oh, no, okay.
Oh, it's a gorilla.
It's a
not
gorilla.
Oh. Okay, well, that's different.
So, no, Valerie has a gorilla on her deck that is pointed out toward the development. And so I thought this was a pushback against her gorilla. Okay, Paul, any comments?
I got a fire board constituted and the first meeting's tomorrow morning, so nothing to report from the fire department.
Yes.
It'll be our first meeting this year.
When you say this is that it's now constituted, is this because there's new people appointed from all the different towns or what?
Yes, not all the different towns. We still have 4 members that are the same, but we have appointed 3 members, so we wanted to wait till they came aboard
Oh, okay.
to discuss who's gonna be the chair, who's gonna, or the meeting dates and all of these.
Okay, because I was actually thinking about the fire district today and was wondering when you would be able, when they would have a meeting and that you could find out what their staff, their plans are for the fire station.
Yeah,
So if you could find out that tomorrow.
The first thing is they wanna get the command structure done at San Paul. Get that architect and then they'll start working on others.
Okay.
But I'll get a better update tomorrow.
Okay.
And then the other issue is, I mean, I missed it when I walked in, but I'm sure people online would like to know what was happening with the water. I know there was an emergency
It wasn't necessarily an emergency, they were fixing, there were some repairs being done,
Okay,
that's all it was.
okay,
It just happened that that they had to turn water off across the whole town. We sent out a message to, it was going to be just the east side of town. And those people on the east side of town got the message and knew it was gonna be off.
oh,
And then with whatever was happening, they ended up having to turn the water off through the whole town.
okay, okay.
That was unexpected.
Did they get it fixed then?
Yeah, it's back on.
That's back on. Yep. That's it.
Valerie,
No comment.
Jim,
Yeah, you bring that up, I caught, as I'm driving out, Brian and Eric were at the corner of SR9 and Camino del Rio.
Mhm.
I forget the name of the roads. That's okay, and yeah, we should commend all three of them for a fine job under adverse conditions when they thought they were really turning off one side of town. It was the whole
whole
town,
town.
but they all three handled it and got done. They should all three be commended for good job.
Okay, I'm gonna mention one thing that, has to do with I had asked April if she had seen the new law that was passed from the state legislature that has to do with the alcohol control board and, issuing, alcohol licenses for businesses that are next to it. And so there is a new procedure, and so to be followed, it was HB 597, I believe, was the number. And I've read it closely, and it requires a public hearing and a vote of the town council to recommend that we approve a license, and then it goes to the alcohol control board to make a decision. So we'll be doing that probably May is my guess. Because the law goes into effect May 6th, so we'll wait until then and then start, do what we need to do, for Riverwalk.
Do you think it's interesting that the cafe down in Riverton is right next to Confluence?
I was thinking about that.
Well, that was a change, because they only added that trail afterwards, and
It's hugely, separated,
it's hugely separated.
so it's not the 300 feet or 200 feet. It's
Yeah.
way more than that. Okay. So anyway, you can read the bill HB 597 and see what it says. Okay, that's all I had for council comments.
Mayor, if I may,
Who's that?
this is
Is that
Heath. This is Heath.
And-
I wanted to give some additional information to the question that you posed to Paul. I sat through a Laverton City Council meeting last week, and one of the deputy fire chiefs were there reporting to that council, and he indicated that their priority was to first build the station in Sand Hollow that would also be utilized for admin. Next priority would be to build the station that they have planned in the Leeds area, and then their following priority would be here in Virgin. And there was specific question asked about that because, as you know, there's a portion of the incorporated area of Laverton up on top, and there is a planned large-scale development that's possibly happening up there.
So that development will need a fire station, fire protection.
Well, yeah, they want fire protection. They wanted to know, and that would be served from the probably from the Virgin Station first.
I guess.
Yeah, and Heath, I think you just listed the order of building, but I think we can start the planning of
absolutely.
getting the land and getting that all wrapped up before then, I would hope.
Yes.
Getting what land?
Well, we got the land, but we have to make an agreement with the fire station.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And we'll have to run that to the town council.
Yeah.
Their approval.
Okay,
Thank you, Keith.
all right, so right now we're moving on to the public hearing, which for the amendment for the budget for this fiscal year. This is our first amendment that we have done. In the past, I've preferred to do every quarter to do an amendment. And this year we did not do an amendment in October nor December, and this is the first one that we're doing for this fiscal year. And that's partly why well, actually, I was thinking that on this amendment, that if you take out the salary for the town manager and the purchase of that property, that there's really not that much in amendments for being 9 months into the fiscal year. It's not much, but in any event, Mark, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna go ahead and read your, since you're driving, you can't be doing this, but I will read your summary that you sent. Yes?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Okay. His memo here says, as discussed with the town council at the March 11, 2026 work meeting, Mayor Kraus and I have prepared proposed mid-fiscal year 2026 budget adjustments. The adjustments are necessary to balance the current budget. They involve general government, Class C roads, Parks and Rec, and the water fund. Specific appropriation adjustments are attached. Two significant general government adjustments involve two expenditures that were not appropriated in the fiscal year 2026 budget. They included purchase of the 3-acre parcel on SR9 and the town manager position. In adding in various other operating expenditures, it is necessary to use $550,000 of the unassigned general fund balance. Another significant amendment regarding Class C roads is a $700,000 transfer in from accumulated B&C road funds to improve 150 West and 100 West and to crack seals / patch roads throughout town per the capital improvement plan. It is recommended that the town council approve the proposed mid-fiscal year 2026. I assume he's talking to somebody else, okay. It is recommended that the town council approve the proposed mid-fiscal year 2026 budget amendments as proposed. So we went over all of this in the meeting last week, so I don't know if there's much for us to discuss, but I need somebody to make a motion to open the public hearing so that we can accept public comment from our audience.
I move we open the public hearing.
You close the public meeting.
We're gonna start off, I move that we close the regular meeting and open the public hearing. I'll second it.
I'm gonna take a roll call vote since this involves a budget. So, April. Aye. Paul.
I,
Jean, yes. Valerie?
Yes.
And Jen.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so anyone in the room have any comments about the budget? Yay. Yay on the budget. Okay, thank you very much for that comment. Okay, for those online, for those who are hearing this in the future, we have 4 people in the room and no one has any comments on the budget. So we can now close the public hearing and return to the public meeting.
I'll move that we close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
I,
All right. I assume I can all in favor of that one. Okay, so what we have here for us is a resolution to adopt the amendments to the budget. And as I was saying earlier, given that we talked about this in our work meeting, Are there any last comments that anyone has or any questions that you have regarding this before we vote on the resolution?
Just one question on clarity, that's all.
Okay, which,
Um,
what line are you looking at?
looking under admin expenses, independent contractor, general government.
Somebody asked about independent contractor every time.
Well, I just figure I want to be clear, just so I,
Independent contractor, that includes our zoning administrator, that includes, Trevor, that includes,
Does that
the,
include the building inspector?
no, building inspector has a separate category.
Okay.
And we raised that when we did the budget last year, we increased the amount for the, inspector. So that he was getting a higher rate of pay this time. I don't know that higher rate of pay ever got put into his paycheck, but, it was budgeted for. Then the interior designer at the new town hall, I've been putting under the independent contractor, but that's gonna get moved over when we do end of the year adjustments to the final budget, that will get moved into town hall renovation. But the other two, zoning administrator and Trevor will stay, because they were independent contractors. Anything else?
So a lot of that increase might be due to the interior designer because.
Well, it wasn't that huge amount, let's see where it is.
Well, the zoning administrator wouldn't have changed.
No, but the independent contractor for Trevor, we never knew exactly how much.
Okay.
He can, the amount of hours he works can change from the meeting.
So he's an hourly.
Yeah, so he's hourly and, you just never know what it's gonna be, so some of that, and I've given him, projects to work on that ended up taking quite a bit of time to do. And so that's what that is. The interior designer really was not that, did not increase it that much.
So the only question I had is the title of it, first quarterly amendment, that means this is the first time we're amending.
Yes, even though this is the third
Okay.
quarter, it is our first quarterly amendment. I didn't know how to put that on the form here, because I was like, well, it is our first one, but I see that Mark has changed the title, or somebody
Oh, he
changed the
did?
title to say third quarter. At least on the attachment that's attached to the resolution, it says third quarter. I had first quarter on what we were looking at last week. Oh, and the resolution says first.
Yeah, so is that acceptable then? Or is it too confusing? I don't know. I mean, I'm fine that now that I know what it means.
Let me look at this. We could change it to say a resolution enacting an amendment of the third quarter. You know, it's because I don't want to say the third quarterly amendment, because we didn't do a first and we didn't do a second.
Yes, I did it. A resolution enacting the First Amendment. No. Doesn't work with it.
But yeah, it could. We could just take out
Why
the
don't
word
you just
quarter.
leave it as,
We could just take out the word quarterly.
why don't you can leave it and just say the first quarterly amendment of the third quarter.
Or that sounds like we're gonna have another in the third
Does
quarter.
it say First Amendment?
Let's take out the word quarter. Okay. Okay, we'll delete the word quarter in the title of the resolution. Okay. Because we'll be doing the second amendment in either May or June when we do the final budget.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay. All right. If there's no more further discussion, then I will take a vote on, or an amendment to approve the resolution. I'll make it.
Do we have a J? It's J, right?
Yes, this is Jane.
Okay, okay.
I make a motion that the town council approve the resolution 2026-J, enacting the first amendment of the adopted budget of Virgin Town for fiscal year 2025-2026.
I'll second.
Clarification, so we're striking it forward.
We're striking the word quarterly from the title of the
From the
resolution.
resolution.
Yes. Okay. All right, I'll start with April again, because I always seem to start with my left side and work to the right. April?
I,
Paul?
I,
Jean, yes. Valerie? Yes. And Jim?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I marked everything under the May category. Okay. All right, moving on. Second item for vote is a resolution of the Bergen Town Council referring a proposed amendment to the open space zoning ordinance to the planning commission for review and recommendation. So I will read Mark's, even though we all talked about this at the work meeting last week, I will read, Mark's summary of this item. At the March 24, 2026 special town council meeting, the council adopted recommended ordinance amendments, to the open space zone. If you remember that we had a special meeting to adopt the, amendments to the open space zone. And it was to the, oh, it has here, the intent of the special meeting was to exempt utilities, public uses, and utility easements from the minimum acreage requirement. The exemption followed Rocky Mountain Power's imminent construction of an electrical substation within the open space zone. However, the amendments also included a list of prohibited uses. If council recalls, when they adopted the open space zoning code in July, prohibited uses were still to be determined. The planning commission has since developed a list, and that version was sent to the council. Since adoption, Laura Campbell, president of the Public Lands Alliance, has argued that the ordinance attempts to define standards for land use on federal lands without authority. He is urging the town council to rescind the ordinance. Mr. Campbell appears to have a point. Federal law likely supersedes local law in this case, but I suggest the council simply amend the ordinance to exempt federal lands from its standards. The matter was discussed at the March 11, 2026 Town Council work sessions. Attached is a proposed amendment written by, we say town planner, future town planner, Riker Stegwich. Oh, that's a typo, Steg, that's an E instead of an I, for consideration. It is recommended that the town council refer to the planning commission a proposed amendment to the open space zoning ordinance, exempting federal and state lands from the use standards at the March 17th regular town council meeting. So, this is what we decided now is whenever we're going to send things to the planning commission, we're going to do it by resolution. And we say in the resolution that, what it is that we want them to do. So I like this better than simply when we had the town council meetings before, where we would just say, let's vote to send this to the town council. I like having it written in the resolution form. That I think that's much more efficient. It probably like that too, yeah. I know. Yeah, so we had Riker draft up an ordinance, and he had sent it where he initially took the original ordinance that we had passed on March 4th, the three of us, when we had that special meeting. He originally took that ordinance and made changes to it, and I said, no, I want you to write a fresh ordinance that is just listing the changes only. And that's what this is. And so I did have a question for Heath, if you are listening.
I am.
Okay, when we had the Zoom call with you, we had mentioned to you that Lee thought there was a section in our code that already said that federal and state laws would preempt our local laws in certain situations, but I reviewed our code and I can't find that anywhere in our code.
Yeah, I did a quick search too of our code and I could not see it either. And even then, that would be a general statement, applicable to all of the town code. I think that an express statement in our zoning districts, if we are to go with a more detailed prohibited list of uses, should have that exemption for federal and state lands.
Okay, so one of the things you had also suggested, and we talked about this as a council at our work meeting last week, you had suggested that we might consider, an ordinance that is, exempted federal, state, lands from all the zones, and we discussed it at the work meeting, it was decided we would do just the open space zone. And Paul, you had a good reason why, and I have spent today trying to remember what the reason was.
Yeah, my reason is one of them I have thought of a year and a half ago. But with the advent of data centers and detention facilities being added around the country, I wanted to give our citizens an opportunity to express their view on it should that occur in Virgin. And if we have a blanket statement, that kind of takes it away, it becomes automatic, and our citizens at least don't get a chance to express their opposition to it if they so choose. And seeing what communities have done around the nation and in Utah, have been able to dissuade certain certain of these facilities from coming in because of opposition. So I just wanted to make sure we limited it as little as possible in this ordinance. Not to say that it won't happen or it will happen, but to give our citizens a chance to voice their opinion should it occur. But I do have a couple follow-up questions for Heath.
Okay, go for it.
And this I would have never thought of before, Heath, was, would you consider, because what we do here is we say, or any other federal, state, or government agency which is subject to the jurisdiction of the such agencies under applicable federal and state law, would we consider Department of Government Efficiency or Department of Retribution one of those agencies? So my suggestion would be just to delete that qualifying section and just so shall not apply to lands administered by BLM or the state of Utah. I think that covers it, and if they're legitimate agencies.
Well, you've got Forest Service lands too.
Do we
The one
have-
thing,
Not in town.
Do we have any in
no, I
town?
don't know that we have any Forest Service in town. We've got it obviously on the north side of Interstate 15, that I'm aware of. But the other thing too is we do have Sitla property within the jurisdiction, and Sitla has taken the position that they will abide by a municipality or county's land use ordinances. And they are technically a agency created by the state of Utah. And so I don't know that I want a blanket statement as to state lands.
Well, my suggestion, Heath, is just limit it to BLM or the state of Utah, and then we can deal with the other items as a piecemeal as they come in one by one. Because we're bound by the Utah Constitution.
Absolutely.
And the US Constitution, and we take that oath, which we do. So when that comes up, if there's a strange agency that we have a dispute over, then we can just deal with it. And I think both BLM and the state of Utah covers almost all possible situations.
What about Water Conservancy lands?
That's down, that's a special
That's-
service district.
Okay, I just throwing that out, did not know.
The other thing is, maybe a way we address that, Paul, is state or federal agency administering or administering public lands. That would probably,
I still have, I mean, we would have never thought of Doge or those other things, and I hate to have somebody come in and claim that.
okay,
Unless it, you know, if they were legitimately authorized, yes. That would be my hesitation. But we got time to think about this because we can refer this down to the planning commission and we can make the decision when it comes back up.
fair enough.
Oh, did you read the letter from Florida?
Yeah, he doesn't want them to make any changes, but I don't think this is what we're talking about, what Paul's concerns are.
No, because he specifically, says BLM and state in his letter, letter he sent today. But he's also saying that if we don't do something.
Oh, he and I already talked, I responded to his.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we wouldn't go any further, and once he knows we're trying to, make the changes that we do, what he suggested, so.
I will say that, I was at a meeting last week where we got some legislative updates from, some state representatives and senators, and then we had legislative updates from them again today in a meeting I had, as Senator Vickers was really worried about data centers in the state.
Worried about what?
Data centers.
Well,
Very
yeah, they're
worried
really
about that.
pushing for.
And so he gave a lot of, things for any town, any municipalities that have potential for a data center to come in, all the things that we needed to be, we needed to know and ask of people who would come in and want to do a data center. He didn't bring up anything about ICE detention centers, but he only talked about the data center. But he was worried about it. So, I think your concerns about data centers are supported by what Vickers had to say today. Because he mentioned that they had some people come in for some data centers that came in and testified, before the committee he was on at the state and wanting to do a data center, they turned him down. But it's going to become more and more robust. So,
Yeah, they're pushing for one in Cedar City right now.
yes, that came up in today's thing. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to point out that you were justified in worried about data centers. Okay, so do we want to just adopt this as is then and send it on to the planning commission? Or do you want to make, something in we could make let's see, what do we say here in the resolution? No, we can just ask them to listen to our minutes and, listen to our recording of today's meeting and write designs or something.
Yeah, there's nothing really specific about. Oh,
And they can give us a recommendation about that additional.
We can ask them to do some, yeah.
And that'll give us time to think about it, but if we were to make a decision tonight, I would have made an amendment to the motion to remove that language.
Okay, so why don't you make the motion on this resolution? This is gonna be K, letter K, okay, since we just did J.
I move that, we have resolution.
It's gonna be K.
So it will be resolution 2026-K, referring a proposed amendment to the open space zoning ordinance to the planning commission for review and recommendation. And we request that they also take a look at the additional language and give us a recommendation, or any other federal, state or government agency which is subject to the jurisdiction of such agencies under applicable federal and state law.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, item number 3 is, a resolution of the Town Council of Virgin, Utah authorizing and approving a professional services contract with Sunrise Engineering for in-house planning and zoning administrator services. So again, we have a summary from Mark, and I will read the summary, and then I'm gonna ask Keith his review of the proposed contract. So the summary. At the January Town Council work meeting, I proposed exploring hiring a full-time planner/zoning administrator to add capacity in an area that is very busy and in which we're weak on. Since then, I reviewed our budget resources and also studied what it would cost to attract and retain a planner. We currently spend approximately $70,000 annually on these services. A full-time position would be about $130,000. Hiring for this position could also have adverse effects on the way we compensate for fringe benefits, stipends versus funded programs for health and retirement, for example. So there are 2 challenges to my original proposal. However, since discussion with council, Mayor Kraus and I explored another option that is less expensive, does not impact our compensation plan, and still provides additional in-house capacity. It includes contracting with our current planning service provider, Riker Stedlich of Sunrise Engineering, but instead of being on call, he would spend 2 to 3 days, it's gonna be 3, in an office at the town hall, attend planning commission and town council meetings, and as such, be more readily accessible, much like a regular employee. Attached is a proposed contract which defines the scope of services and includes a budget. The estimated annual cost is $112,173. This concept was discussed by the town council at the March 11, 2026 work meeting, and the consensus was to move forward with it. It is recommended that the town council approve a new contract with Sunrise Engineering for an in-house town planner/zoning administrator effective this fiscal year. So Heath, did you have time to review the, what is it?
Writer sent that in,
Okay, I was like, what,
Yeah.
hold on, Heath, I'm like, what is this? I didn't see this before.
so Writer sent that in to Mark, and then Mark has for me to put that in your packets for you guys to review, he just before the meeting here.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Heath. Oh, I see, it's, hold on just a sec, this is the CD you asked for. Right. Yeah, that's what that is, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. I've reviewed it, and this is a work order extension or a work release is what they refer to it as. We have already signed a professional services agreement with Sunrise Engineering to provide consulting and various engineering services to the town. That has a lot of the what we would consider the standard terms and conditions, and we've already reviewed that and agreed to this. So a lot of the standard terms are not necessarily addressed in this work release. However, as I looked at it, it did seem to be what I understood from discussions between the town manager and town council as kind of the scope of what we wanted. I did have a question with regards to 3 days in office, or is the 3rd day considered attendance at planning commission and council meetings?
When we talked with Joe Phillips and Riker, when Mark and I had a meeting with them to talk about this, I meant 3 days in the office.
Okay. Okay. So do you see down in the table on pages, I believe it's section 7, especially on 7 at the end of the table. Let me rotate that. It indicates note number 3, the budget outlined above reflects a baseline assumption of the town planner spending 2 8-hour days per week in client's office, an additional in-office day per week. 3 total days could be added and would increase the budget by approximately $46,000.
Well, before they, all right. When we first talked to them, we talked about 2 days. And then I thought I made it clear, I wanted 3 days, 2 was not gonna be enough. That I wanted 3 days,
The
I'm
scope,
wondering,
the scope contemplates in office, and it does discuss 2 days, and it does discuss attendance at planning commission and council meetings, which would probably be the equivalent of roughly a half day per week. No, I guess a day per week. Because we've got a half day, because they have allocated 4 hours of time for each meeting in their budget. And assuming some meetings may not go 4 hours. But yes, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I don't know that that would be a question that I had, because it appears to me like when I read the scope that it's 2 days in office.
well, the total cost is going to depend on how much time we spend, is that correct?
Yep.
So if we need him 3 days a week, it might not be every week.
If you look to Mayor, page 3 of the agreement,
Yes, I
the-
see that they have 2 days.
yeah,
I see that. I'm actually looking at the paragraph below that 1 sentence paragraph.
yeah,
Client may provide professional shirts displaying client's logo for engineer to wear at meetings wherein engineer is performing services as the town planner.
I think they meant to say when the engineer is performing service
Well,
town planner.
I was just wondering about it because he's not an engineer, he's a planner.
Exactly, but his firm, Sunrise Engineering,
Is an
is the
engineer.
defined term engineer. So if it said for engineer to wear at meetings where the engineer is performing services as the town planner. So we need to get him a town version.
Okay, I do see that, what they say in the beginning, that when they use the word engineer, that is to stand for Sunrise Engineering. I see that now.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this basically is for 2 days, not the 3 days that, I wanted, but that is something that we can work on in the beginning.
I read that as, yeah, he can do 3 days, but it's gonna cost an additional 46.
Well, that's why I'm saying we'll see.
However, we do need to look at the budget in the context of this. And in addition to 2 days of in-office, he will be at the
Planning Commission and Town Council.
offices through the each planning commission meeting and each council meeting. So that is, at 4 hours, that's approximately 2.5 days a week.
Well, we might not need to be at every single meeting, though.
There is that.
Well, he makes that note there in note, reference in note number 2 of the budget, where it says planning commission meeting hours could be reduced if planning commission work meetings are deemed unnecessary or are discontinued. This adjustment could result in measurable savings in the budget.
Okay.
Here's one thing I noticed, we're working on $112,173 in 9 months.
No, not 9 months.
That's what this is, this is
Where?
9 months. So if you do simple math, you're adding up to start for a year, $149,000.
Say that again.
If you notice at the top is
Yes, I
April
see.
5th down to December 27th. End of December, 9 months. We're missing 3 months.
Hold on. Oh, it starts in, oh, I see, it's pages 5, 6, and 7, both pages, okay.
You kind of take the 112. Get an average out of the months there and add that on 112, you're pushing $149,000.
I see what you're saying.
Well above hiring a full-time planner. Now, if you add a third day, then you add $46,000, you're $5,000 short of $200,000 a year.
Which we're not gonna do.
Mayor, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi all, sorry I'm late. By the way, I can't wait till we have the new audio and the new town hall, so that when you're online, you can actually understand what's being said. Thank you, Councilmember Keatsman. Yeah, I appreciate you pointing this out. What I will note is, yes, it does start in April. But it actually goes through
The end of the year.
the end of the year, so,
But it's only 9 months of
We
figures.
understand.
right, so, yes, good point. I thought that, originally they had, provided an email. So.
They provided what?
Annual
And.
budget, April.
Yeah, that's what we said. What did you want to say?
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, we also need to recognize if the council would look closely at the red. Well, I'm looking at the online version. The note number 1 to that table in red indicates that we are, assuming we are collecting application fees budgeted for certain portions of the planner's responsibility, like plan check review and things like that, based on a 9-month range or 39-week range, they estimate that the actual hard cost to the city that's not offset by fees is $90,489. You add back in 3 months and you extrapolate a similar discount. I don't know where that would put it, but it would be definitely more.
Okay. Yes, so if you look at, I see where they're coming up with this, and you asked about this last week, Jim. And now that I'm looking at it closer, he's basically taking that column. The last column for total hours says application review. He's got planning commission, town council, miscellaneous, process development, walk-ins, pending ordinances, application review.
Mhm.
And then he totals that figure comes down to 21,684, and then that's what they're subtracting here from the total, saying that the fees collected for him doing that would reduce the pay. I mean, would reduce help defray costs, let's put it that,
Offset.
that, yeah, offset.
And that offset is based on that, so you have to have the additional months.
It would be more.
Right.
Yeah, the offset would increase also is what I was trying to say. The only other thing that I wanted to point out to you that I wasn't completely in love with, there is a provision in here that says that Sunrise has the ability to increase the salary of the planner. He's an employee of Sunrise, and that at the time that we would come up for our next extension, that we would negotiate in good faith a price increase.
And where is this?
Let's see. I can find it real quick.
Sorry.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, compensation, here it is, compensation, okay.
Just something clear. He's labeled as a senior planner. Doing some math on total hours and total costs. Figured out he's labeled as a planner 2 on their Sunrise Engineering fee schedule.
Yeah.
At $139 an hour, which that's what Sunrise charges.
Mhm.
Yes. And that's what we're paying right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I would tell you this, and Riker may, if he's on the phone or someone from Sunrise, I don't want to claim that I know this definitively, but I believe that Riker is the highest positionally planner at Sunrise here in St. George. And they may have an individual or two in their Northern Utah offices that are planner 3s, but I don't know that there's any of that in the St. George office of Sunrise. So the reality is I don't know that we would be getting charged some hourly time of a planner 3 unless I guess Riker was going to them for some assistance.
The impression I got from him at the meeting last week was that that was gonna be included, what was gonna be included, the expertise that he has available at Sunrise. Not, sorry, not not with an extra charge, an extra fee attached to it.
Well, if another planner is involved, and it says that he will primarily be, that he is the person appointed by Sunrise to be the town planner under this proposal, but it does say, just like the engagement agreement that the town has with my law firm, that in certain instances, there's a need and time for additional manpower and or expertise. And we have, just like my law firm has the ability and additional expertise, it may come from a different attorney other than me, but that would be billed for just like I would be billing my time for. And the same thing here is that he does have access to those with additional expertise above and beyond his experience.
Yeah, it's not that if he went to go get additional help from other divisions within Sunrise, that there would not be a charge. It's that he has access to those and he can call on them like a heartbeat. Whereas if we had our own planner on staff, that if he needs extra help, he's gotta find an engineering firm to call and ask for help, whereas here, right here, he knows who to call and just picks up the phone and calls them, they're part of the same firm.
Or, and there are situations where he will go discuss something with somebody else.
Yeah.
And likely not charge us.
There's,
It's only when they do significant work or expertise that they may do that. So I'm sure there are times they'll throw us, do we have a problem here? And they'll say yes or no.
Mhm.
And then it would depend on that.
yeah, okay. So we pay them by the hour right now, and so it's that rate, yes, sign or two, yeah, so we already pay that. How many hours? No, right.
It just depends on the ordinances that we ask him to write.
Yeah.
And then if he comes to our planning commission meetings, our town council meetings, how many hours is a year? But some of the ordinances that we ask him to write are really simple, some are complicated. And then he reviews the ordinances that are being written by our present planning commission. He reviews them, and I've asked him to give us his comments on proposed ordinances, et cetera. So he does all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So is he-
So,
Yeah, no, I think he's done a decent job. I'll be honest, I just struggle with the money that is out here for this. Where we have a current situation with him, what he's doing. We have a permit technician doing certain things, zoning administration type work. It just. And I'm not seeing a huge influx of permits coming. You know what I mean? There's a possibility, we all hear about all the possibility, I do know, but, you know, with that, and I'll be honest, without seeing a full year's money laid out in front of me. I struggle with being able to approve anything like that.
okay,
I do have a question for this town manager. And, the reason we were considering a contract was because of the potential costs of a full-time planner or the struggle with some of the benefits. Now adding this full year cost that's being pulled, if we were to extrapolate this out as a full year, would we be better off to hire a full-time planner? We may not know the answer, we may need to delay this a month to think about it and go back and negotiate, but I don't know if you thought of whether you have any other thoughts on that.
well, what we talked about last week, if you remember, is that it's gonna be hard to find a full-time planner who's gonna work for us when we don't offer benefits. Other than, like, we're not in the Utah retirement system. All we do is we give our guys a stipend and they go out and get their own health insurance. And, like when Chase came to work for us for Public Works, he left because he just could not deal. Part of it was he needed to be in the Utah retirement system. And, he couldn't, the stipend thing wasn't working for him. Because he had been in the Utah retirement system, then came to work here where he was not, and he's like, this isn't working for me.
And that limits the pool because
It limits the pool.
because I assume that most of the planners that have been working in the Utah government.
Yes, and the one thing I want to point out is in this hourly rate, it includes their benefits. And they're providing him a car. So there is stuff that is beyond just him coming in, sitting here and attending meetings.
Oh, totally
There's a
understood,
lot of stuff.
$139 an hour, yes, it's covering all that,
All
it's
of
not
that.
just,
Yes.
he's not getting $139.
No, he's certainly not.
I
Yeah, certainly not.
yeah, it's paying for it.
So if I may,
Yes.
to answer Councilmember Louis' question, you don't know until you know, in terms of hiring somebody full-time to go through the selection and recruitment process. I think it would be a bit of a challenge. And I'm not saying that's not what I would ultimately like to do. That was my first recommendation. So this may be kind of a stepping stone to that. And then, getting back to Councilmember Keithman's concern, the net annual cost after considering,
The money's been.
third party review, yeah, some of that, it is about $119,000. So, and the $130,000 that I put out there, I mean, that was not a hard estimate, I wouldn't have to hold me to that, but, you know, that was based on. You know, what I was seeing in terms of pay and benefits, but that would include full benefits, not
But-
a stipend.
Yeah, and I will say that when we talked about, what we're paying right now for, where in your summary, you mentioned that we were paying around $70,000 right now
Yeah.
for, services, if we were to look for a planner, what we would get for this salary would be somebody who just graduated college and doesn't have much in the way of experience. You're not gonna get an experienced planner for $70,000. We're not gonna get it for $80,000 or $90,000 either. It's gonna be somebody fresh out of college. And so there is that to consider. And he's got the experience, he's been working for years in this area.
Right.
And he's got that whole pool of
But my brain was working on $112,000 a year,
not 9 months.
not like.
Yeah, I agree.
But they never tried to like trick us or anything.
No, it was in
No.
there.
It was in, yeah,
It was
the
in there.
information was,
It's just how were we reading it?
I caught it at 3 a.m. this morning.
What were you doing up at 3? What were you doing up at 3 a.m.?
Driving.
Reading contracts. He was reading contracts at 3 a.m.
Is there any reason we need to make a decision tonight and we can delay it for a month, but kind of?
Well,
About
we
that.
do have our,
Yeah. So we can delay, but we did get notice
from Gene.
from our zoning administrator, per his contract, he gave 30 days notice, so he would be done April 15th.
Although you asked him to make it effective April 1st instead of April 15th. You told me. you asked him to
Yeah, I
make it
asked him if he'd
April 1st.
consider that, and he would, but he's also said that he can
Extended
extend it
if
and
necessary.
be available through the
I'm not sure
transition,
we're
so
getting
it's,
that.
so it's, we're not,
I.
there's not a hard and fast.
Okay,
So this is a year or 9-month contract, and it's for 2026. Is that correct? That's what.
yeah,
Do the balance.
I really don't know why they did that through the rest of the
They just said
calendar year. I don't know.
2026. Okay,
I
that's
don't know
fine.
why they did that.
We
Maybe
have that update now.
just get started with them and use them and go along and maybe try to look for another planner and just let. them
Well,
know.
that's what Paul was saying last week was this is a way to start.
Yes,
And while we see how things go, and then, this is not saying we have a contract that we're going to pay them $112,000. This is a contract that they will bill this much per hour, and here's how many hours they think
It's an
they will
estimate.
spend. It's all an estimate.
and so, I mean, I just looking at the town council and planning and zoning meetings, I mean, there might be meetings that go longer or go 4 hours, but in general, I'm not sure who has to attend all of that. I mean, that's a big chunk of this.
And not just that, but I predict that, once he starts working, that even the planning commission meetings will be shorter because he will have prepared the ordinance and he will be doing a summary, just like what Mark is doing for us on our issues, and he will be doing the work and they just sit and discuss this. They're not spending the time on it.
Right.
And, I predict the meetings would be shorter.
And I agree, and then I'll also add that I don't see him coming to every council meeting, for example.
No.
If you've got something relevant, you've got a land use ordinance, then you'd likely be here, otherwise it's not gonna be here. So that's very much flexible time. So,
So Pete, what do you have to contribute to our discussion here?
Well, having worked with Riker when he was the planning administrator in Tokerville, I will tell you one thing, your point about hopefully streamlining some of the planning commission's meetings and discussions, I think would be true, because I observed and watched, he was very good at taking input from staff about needed changes. And then having a discussion with the planning commission about what is proposing, as much initially as just being the concept. And then he would come back to them with an actual draft at a following meeting, and they would discuss it and make any particular suggestions on word changes or additions. But by the mere fact that he had drafted it from the outset and is very familiar with drafting of ordinances, I saw that those discussion periods weren't as long, and council, they were more quickly processed up to with a recommendation after a public hearing to the council. So I've got positive things to say about Riker. I think he's good and has a lot of great attributes. So that's just my perspective on him, if that's what you're asking about.
Yes, and yes, but you answered what I was thinking about. So, Paul, your concern about putting this off for a month is what?
So what's an option for us to think
The
of?
reason I was asking is because as we said, it's an estimate, we don't know how many hours it will be. We have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I was considering Jim's concern over the budget, but I did hear Rachel say this is for 9-month contract, and then in 9 months, we either continue on with it or we opt out.
It's working for.
We just have to provide notice, whatever that is.
Well, I didn't see you
Well-
just said this was a 9-month contract.
The way this is issued, Paul, as a work release, it's a work release or authorization for Riker to do this for 9 months. And if we wanted him to continue on, we would have to agree to a new work release for the next 12 months, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are definitely, we have that off ramp or crossroads 9 months from now, after evaluating how it's working and what it's costing. And there, frankly, was I was impressed with the language of what they've committed to as far as providing periodic accountings of total expenditures based off of in comparison to the budget, so that town can see if we were using Riker too much, to the point that we are going to be going over what's stated in this budget. So I actually quite like that language, and I don't know that I necessarily see many engineering firms who are providing consulting services promise to do that in their agreements. They'll just keep billing and keep billing. Sometimes you just look at the end of the day or the fiscal period, you look and go, wow.
So we can't pay them with a credit card, but we can pay for understanding. But we don't pay it with a credit card anyway.
They send us a bill, we write them a check.
Well, I kind of like, I'd be willing to go ahead with that, or I think does a good job, and he's got a lot of experience. I know that his experience with other local towns could be very helpful to us. And I have a feeling that he's probably not going to spend as many hours, especially in our meetings. And I would be willing to consider the 2026 contract that they have. And then in the meantime, as we see how it's working, then we can decide on whether or not we would rather have a in-house planner full-time, or if we need that, actually, depending on the economy, what happens. This is pretty flexible, honestly. It really is a flexible contract, and you can, I suppose that it's going to be pretty independent, but I'm sure that there'll be people that know kind of the hours that he's spending. I mean, Preston and Mark's probably going to be aware how much time he's spending in the office.
Yeah,
He would be a supervisor. So I feel pretty comfortable. I don't like the fact that it's that much money, but I mean, we're spending a lot of money. I don't think we're getting. I agree. What we spend. We need, you know, right now. So I just think, like Paul said, it's a good segue into something we need to go, with a full-time plan.
And I will say that what he has done over the time that he has been working for us, he has periodically called and said, you don't need to pay me to do this. You know, save your money, don't do this, don't do that. So he has called with those issues. So he is not, one to just run up the bills.
No,
He's
record.
aware.
A conscientious person, and he's got good recommendations from the people in town that he's been working with.
So I understand, Jim, you have your concerns. April is okay with it. I'm okay with it. I don't know about Paul and Valerie.
I'm okay with it. And what's yours, Paul?
I'll go and make a motion. Somebody.
April, go ahead and make a motion.
Okay,
This will be this will be resolution L, by the way. Okay.
So I make the motion that we approve the resolution number R 2026-L. The resolution of the town council of Virgin Utah authorizing and approving a professional service contract with Sunrise Engineering for in-house planning and zoning administrator services.
That,
I'd like to amend that it's for the year 2026.
and the second goes to that amendment.
Okay. I will do a roll call vote on this, since this involves the spending of money. All right. Thank you, Keith, for telling us doing the right thing. Okay, April, start with Jim. Jim,
No,
Valerie, yes. Jean, yes. Paul,
Aye.
and April, I care. All right, so resolution R 2026-L passed 4-1. And, it won't necessarily start April 5th, even though they have that in here. I'm gonna tell you, it's not necessarily gonna start April 5th. There's no furniture, there's no place for him to work just yet, so we have to get a table. Well, there is the conference table that we got, but
So
there
we
is that.
basically carry on the way he has been carrying on.
Until
Zoning administration duties if.
Until I sign this.
Oh.
So I haven't signed this yet. And so I'll get around to signing this and have to set up things and then you'll start when we make a motion.
Okay,
May also remember when you're talking about getting things set up, they do commit there that they will also provide him with a computer and, obviously we'll need to interface in some ways with the way documents are stored with the, and maintained by the town, but we don't have to front, the IT cost of a new computer. Maybe just the IT cost of getting him connected.
Correct. I did talk to him about that yesterday and he said he would be using a Sunrise computer. And all he really needed was maybe, he was saying he could bring his little portable monitor, but I was like, we've got monitors that we can provide that you can just plug into your computer and have a bigger screen.
Yeah,
But I did ask him about storing of documents, because I wanted us to have, we need to decide that.
how the documents should be stored. Because he was going to just be using his Sunrise computer, and I'm like, well, I want the documents on our computer.
His
And,
work,
or our
his
server.
work product while working for the town is the town's. And so drafts and things like that need to be stored, wherever we would store documents like that, on the town server.
Okay, so. I figure we'll work that out, but I did raise it with him already about how documents are gonna be stored.
Yes.
So, and what, even though if they're working for us, it's our work product, at what point is their work product? And so, I didn't know if we should say you need to connect up and store to our server, and you can have, you know, store in two places,
Oh.
what do you do? So,
Yes, and not programs, and they're providing some of the programs on the computer for him. Anything that we use specialized that he would need access to, like maybe City Inspect or something like some other software like that, we would have to provide, but I'm only thinking of the data of his work product, meaning drafts and notes and memos to himself and, you know, what, however he may use his computer and stuff like that, that when that stuff.
that he keeps for himself, he doesn't have to give to us, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that draft versions of things, and for instance, he may need to get copies of different mapping and engineering things that the town owns and is paid for, and he'll want to save those in his place, wherever. That's not to be obviously Sunrise's documents, and it needs to be stored only on our server. As well
Okay.
as his drafts.
Okay,
We'll work it.
we'll work it out.
Yeah,
I don't want.
I wonder if.
Details.
Yeah, no, that's true, but it's just that. Consideration.
No,
It's
it's
a-
great. Great question.
I wonder if we could get like an update, maybe in 3 months as to how much. And the council can get an idea.
The only reason why I'm making a big deal about that is that occasionally the town receives grammar requests and even an occasional subpoena asking for documents of the town. And if they're being kept in 2 different locations, one with a consultant, and when it's the town's work product, it can be a little burdensome and challenging, and to be both accurate and timely in response to those things, and the storage for an extended period of time of those things.
Okay, and I haven't gone quite so far as thinking about grammar requests, but I have been wondering that I didn't like the idea of stuff being in 2 different places, so we're kind of going along the same lines, even though I hadn't thought about grammar. Okay, all right. So that has been resolved, and so now that puts us on the final item on the agenda. Okay. Final item on the agenda is a code enforcement update. So I'm going to let you handle this part, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Council. If you recall, Councilmember Louis had asked for an update on code enforcement. Code enforcement is a fairly new service in town. We have our code enforcement officer, Matt Johnson, here, and I've asked him to provide kind of a high level overview of how things are going. I understand in the past, council has gone into closed session to talk about specific cases. May or may not avail yourself to, but if you wish to do that, we have a written report that we could share in that forum as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
And before you do, thank you for extending this week, because you found out it's so hard to listen and hear on other. So thanks, Matt, for delaying the week.
Yeah. Since our last, meeting.
Can you get up on the mic so?
Yeah, it's hard enough to hear.
Since, we met last, we've had a variety of, a little bit of everything with, signs, lighting, nuisance, permit violations. Signs have been a big focus along, SR9 and Chiefs Bridge Road. The new businesses and the better signs and, Zion Smoothie, Extra Mile, Zion Helicopters. We've addressed several reports of, overgrown weeds, piles of cleaning up yards, permitting, we've stopped several, projects with, no permits. Stop them from building and then, continue the lighting and night sky, audit. It's kind of a very fluid process. Because sometimes lights are on, sometimes, but roughly. The big ones are gonna be the businesses like Ryan, Wildflower and, Balcony One. And we're talking about different ways to get compliance ahead of time, rather than after that, just giving them different options for shielding and different stuff like that.
So how are the businesses responding when so do you go up and say, we have a lighting ordinance starts by, and so in so many years, you're going to have this done. And you wanted to start now, I don't know what your approach is, but are they being very responsive or?
So far, I've talked to George with Balcony One and he, seemed like it wouldn't be a problem to look at options like Dixie cups or something to shield all his, lighting like that. That's similar to what they did in Springdale with several businesses with just shielding. But he was responsive. I haven't talked to Zion Wildflower yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say Zion Wildflower kind of. I feel that even if they put those Dixie cups on those lights, it's not really going to affect much because they're up on a hill and you drive down and you're looking up at the lights. So even if they have a shield on them, we're still looking up at the lights and we're gonna see them. And because they're up on a hill.
It's true.
And I'm going, I don't know how you shield the light like that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
What we're gonna do about that.
Well, yeah, with what they're gonna do, because they'll maybe argue the horizontal plane of their ground level versus looking at it from
The height.
the beacon, the hill. Yeah.
Have you had any contact with the new Sunoco?
Yeah, we went and did a couple of site visits and walks and just tried to get their lighting preemptively voluntary compliance and just
It's been better, but it's still good.
yeah, they were supposed to be limiting just to the center of the lights.
Right.
But I'm not sure about the ADA and handicap.
I can answer that.
I can speak to that certainly on the command, but, yeah, I see Shiloh left her permit technician, but she's been working very closely with Sunoco. She and I have also met with the general contractor throughout construction. The term voluntary compliance is relevant because of the timing of this, and we're running into this quite a bit, so staff's doing a lot of missionary work to try to get voluntary compliance when, the developer or owner really pushed it. And we wouldn't really have a hammer, so our approach is be a good neighbor, and for the most part, they have been, so. Chevron, for example, is an earlier example. And, I have found them to be very responsive. But I can give you details on Sunoco if you'd like them.
Yes, I was gonna say, I know you told me that, I think it was you, that told me that they had put the shields around all the lights underneath the canopy, and I drove by and I looked, and sure enough, they've got shielding around all of the
They,
lights.
they constructed, this was after everything was up, they constructed 2-inch shields on all the lights. They have agreed to just do the center, not all
Right.
3 rows. So Chevron has done that, and if you notice, it's much better. Under those conditions, so.
So has Seneco done just the center lights lately? I guess I can get down here, I'll drive by and see. But,
Yeah, I've got I had Shyla do a report for me that she did late this afternoon. She has a photo of it, from the other night showing just the one.
just the center lights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one?
This would go right down the center, because they put.
Under the canopy.
Underneath the canopy, they got 3
I
rows.
was wondering, there's switching between Cheryl and one.
No, we're talking about.
We're on the back on Sunoco, so, or Sunoco, depends on who you ask. They're more of an eastern US company, so.
Who, Chevron?
I think I found, no, Sunoco, I think it's pronouncing it correct.
Sunoco. Okay, I was like,
We have I'm sorry to digress, but we have a little inter-office,
Discussion.
not a debate, but kind of fun between Sunoco and Sunoco.
You can always call the corporate and see how they answer the phone.
Oh, it's on Google Trust.
I Googled an audio clip and sent it to the staff that said, I think I'm right. Yeah. Anyway, so, sorry.
Well, hurricane is hurricane and hurricane.
Yeah.
That's
Utah just pronounced the stuff
fair,
weird.
that's a fair point. Fair point. In terms of signage, the backdrop structure, is on a timer and will shut off when the business closes at 11 p.m. The Fat Burger to go and Buffalo, World Famous Wings signs will also turn off at 11 p.m. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Since you were talking about Chevron, are we gonna have them ever come in compliance with our CUP?
With regard to what,
The lighting.
don't just say
The
CUP,
lighting.
what part of the lighting?
The lighting, because the way the CUP reads, it should only be one light. One particular light. Can't be the
Parking lot,
Yeah, we turn the
center light.
Yeah.
I'll look at that, council member, and that issue hasn't been raised with me previously.
It says,
It's been raised with us.
yeah,
And it's been raised with you, but it's definitely raised with us.
operating advertising the canopy lights must be turned off outside of store hours, with the exception of one sign under 8 feet of height that is externally downlit using lighting that does not exceed 3,500 kelvin.
Okay, so in terms of the canopy, and I will check with Chevron, but sometimes the pumps are on 24/7.
That's what they're using to argue why the canopy stays on, it's because their pumps are open 24/7, therefore they're open 24/7.
Gotcha.
They tried to argue that.
Gotcha.
No,
But I'll take a look.
store hours, not gas hours, so.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
way
Does
it's
it
written,
say store hours?
It says store hours, that's not the store hours. I get, the reason I'm raising it is because, I don't know Matt, but I get a call once a week almost.
I
Chevron.
get complaints.
Yeah, about the lighting of the
That's why I got
canopy.
it back, and he put a piece of duct tape over it so it doesn't shine in. Neighbor, I mean, it works,
work,
but
but
it's not,
it's not.
it's not a permanent fix.
Okay.
really.
I will look at Chevron's CUP.
Okay. And then the other question relating to our lighting ordinance. Our ordinance says we have, and I don't know if we're gonna meet this deadline. I think we have to have the first audit completed by April of this year. are we gonna have that audit completed and prepared by April?
Should be,
Close to?
yeah, well, I mean, through the holidays, it was kind of. Not,
Well, great.
but, yeah,
You got 2 more weeks.
it's come along.
Well, I didn't, it didn't say, I have to go back.
It didn't say April
It
first.
did say April first, so I
So
saw.
we have to look into.
I think you got to the end of this.
Okay.
And then we do one every 4 year after that, so it'd be good to see that report when it's completed, so we can see what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So great, thank you for your hard work on that. I do have some other questions related to some general items, the signage at the White Bison with the off-premise sign.
With the what?
The off-premise sign, a White Bison, a big sign.
I know.
Have you got a complaint, have you dealt with that? I mean,
I haven't gotten a formal complaint, people have mentioned it and asked about it.
and then apparently there's an e-bike off-premise sign.
I noticed that today.
I noticed it today too. I talked to Crystal about it. Did you forward that to them yet?
I've not even drove down or seen.
No, but I also mentioned it to them.
No.
Okay.
I've been talking about it.
That's the one west of Main Road.
Nope,
No,
it just.
Is that one I understood was real nice?
It
just appeared. Oh, those
Yeah,
are.
it's a
those are-
brand new sign, it's big, it's big.
We'll check it
I'll
out.
check that.
Yeah.
do you wanna
Okay.
go on, closed on this one or no?
What?
Do you wanna go into closed session on that or no?
Well,
No, they're gonna check it out. And then the, smoothie sign that was added last year,
What smoothie sign?
the one on the north side towards the middle of town, it's on the north side of the street.
Yeah, A-frame sign.
Yeah, A-frame sign.
I've seen all their signs that he's had along the highway. Where is there an A-frame sign?
It's smaller.
Smaller as you go up the hill. On the north side of,
As you're going up the hill from Zion White Bison heading west?
you heading
Yes.
west.
I don't know that I've noticed
Yeah,
it, okay,
so, yeah, that's one that appears to be.
obviously,
check that
he
out.
has seen
To
it.
check that out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then somebody also mentioned the containers on Palmer's property. Can be accessory buildings.
If they're permanently affixed,
Sorry, what
if they're permanently affixed, meaning set on a foundation, has a connection to electrical or something like that, then it would be considered an accessory, I think.
I don't believe, I know, didn't you already go down there and look at those? If not, it was Nick, somebody went down already and looked at those.
it when he was out there.
Yeah, and they're just containers. In fact, it looked to me today as I was coming back from St. George, it's like, is there another one?
They're adding.
They added one.
Yes.
Okay, because I looked at it when I went by and I don't remember that many.
They started with one and now they have quite a few.
But I know they added, but I mean, it seemed like something added like this week or within the past week, a new one has shown up.
Because that's rural residential, they need
Right.
these used for business.
Yes, I know. Now that we did the development agreement with, which we just did with, the Palmers, now we can turn around and say, you can't have that there. But we just did the development agreement. I wasn't gonna turn around and say, now get out, within a week, but it will be addressed.
Check them out.
It will be addressed.
Those are just some of the many that I have, I don't know how many of you have. But I'm surprised that if some of these are new to you, then somehow we're not funneling them right to the right person to deal with them. So somehow we need to get them to you, Matt, and instead of just festering with the neighbors.
Well, they need to not be, I mean, they keep telling us, why are people not writing to the code enforcement officer? Why are they telling us?
What I need to do then is like Matt, because that's the same thing to say, Matt, take a look at this, because it doesn't matter which one it comes from.
Because every time somebody says something to me, I say, go on the website.
It's easier to track.
Somebody was complaining about garbage from the containers with this wind we had last week, apparently a ginormous.
Are you looking for the caucus meeting? It's at the gym at the church, a former church.
What meeting is this?
This is the town council. They're doing it up at the gym because we were using this for the town council meeting.
Okay.
But it's the door over by the park. If you go in the door over by the park into the gym, that's where they're having the caucus.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. So, anyway, yes, we should be telling you, go online and do it,
That's all, that's a good point, which is we could do it ourselves.
Okay, so when I
Or
started,
just contact me,
then when I get CJ Klein,
email or
Okay,
text.
I think one good way to follow too is if you have them one, just to write them down in a letter, map. And it's not just one. Right, at a time, because I mean, I know in my neighborhood, there's several, and so it's easier just to write them.
But then he'll have to turn around and enter them in the whole point is to get them in the program so that we.
Yeah,
can see
ideally the people.
What is
we're talking
recorded
about.
and they just don't.
If they don't.
They just don't.
I know, they call us, they call
well,
us.
that's our job, so what I'll do is just send, email to both Matt and to Mark, and then they can process it.
So I know you don't have an easy job, I'm sure. I can't even imagine what it must be like, but what happens when you go talk to somebody? Say, you know, they have a small business and you're like, there's a complaint, they have a small business and it's not, you don't have a whatever, you don't have a license, and they say, oh, well, no, I don't have a small business. When it's pretty obvious to everybody that they do have a small business. What do you mean? So if somebody has a small business at their house.
Oh,
then
at
it's
their
not,
house.
yeah, at their house,
Okay.
sorry.
Without advertisements or signage or something stating that, it's kind of like, no, I'm not. And. I mean, I don't live next to them, so it's hard to, go off of.
So go back and ask your question again. I wanna make sure I'm asking you back.
What happens when someone reports that a person in a house has a small business?
Okay.
Just say maybe they're repairing vehicles or whatever, a little business. So it's reported to Matt, Matt goes and talks to them, and they say, oh, no, I'm not doing that type of work.
Okay.
And then, I mean, he doesn't really have any recourse unless we.
Well, Matt can go stake them out and watch them.
Okay,
Detective Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
Yeah,
it's
and that's,
difficult,
that's
so-
my experience is that depending on, how that individual responds, if they deny it, then we can take,
Next.
drive by, monitor doctor complaints, and if we have enough, evidence, I hate to use the word evidence, but, then we can reapproach it.
Yeah.
And we believe because of what we've observed, and we can document that, and when, that we think you're running business.
Documents and cell phones are great.
Go for it.
Okay.
Cell phones with pictures are great over time.
Mayor,
And what about
may I have a
parking,
question for
please?
Matt?
Okay.
Matt, will you just explain to the council, if you have observed repeatedly a code violation, what steps do you take? I guess I would say in escalation, so that the council can appreciate what you do.
Right, so we try the good neighbor approach, the missionary work first thing. Talking to them, see how they respond. If not, then it is a notice of violation. Just like a kind of like a warning, and then it can be a violation letter, and that starts. Like,
let me ask you this question so that we're not necessarily discussing anyone in particular, but do we have any pending right now where there is something more than a notice of violation, where there's actual violation and you are seeing continued disregard?
Not currently. The last one would have been Zion Helicopters. They kind of were out of season, so they just ignored me, and I ended up calling the manager, or I guess corporate owner in Las Vegas, to tell him that he was being sent a notice of violation, and
Okay.
he called and had it taken care of.
Okay. I just wanted to know for purposes whether we needed to go into any executive session to discuss something, whether there needs to be any further escalation.
Not currently.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Matt. I think I have
You
some
guys have
other,
any other issues?
I have some other issues, but I think I'll take those up offline.
Sure, I appreciate that. And then Mary, I do have one more thing to add. Matt, when I started, Matt had approached me, and I think the council's talked about it in work meeting, but a civil infraction ordinance to try to make, the enforcement more timely, less costly. Not spend time and money on litigation, for example. And I had a brief discussion, preliminary discussion with Keith as well, but that's something I'd like to bring to the council.
I'm 100% for it. I prefer the infraction ordinance. I know there are communities in the state that do it now. And I think it's possible to do it, and it could become creative if there's any objections in the way. I think we can overcome those.
Yeah,
So-
I was involved in that. That was a law change many years ago, or mid-90s, and I think it's worked well in my experience, so I would hope I work well here.
Yeah, and I think it's great, not just for land use, but let's say if we have something with an animal control violation. There's so many different things that it can apply to that. We don't have to go criminal, we can do citation. So thank you, I'm glad you both working on it.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, please, second.
Well, that's a question.
He wasn't saying he made much to adjourn, but, okay, all in favor? Aye. Yes.
Matt, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.